Hello there, I'm Janette Lane, a craft designer at CraftStash, and in today's video I wanted to share how to make some masculine cards with some emoji stamps. These brand new stamps by Creative Stamps are exclusive to CraftStash, so you can't find them anywhere else, and they feature some really cute little emoji icons. So we have some smiley faces, some heart eyes, the angel emoji, and also some cute little sentiments like happy birthday, hello friend, XO, best friend forever, you make me feel. So really fun, cute little stamps to work with. The first card I'm going to be sharing is this watercolored stamped background card. It's really colorful. It's got a little bit of sparkle. I don't think that you should shy away from a little sparkle if you're making any kind of masculine cards. I think it's perfectly acceptable. I know personally that my husband does like just a little bit of a fancy factor whenever I make a card for him. He doesn't mind it one bit. Also, this card would be perfect for a teenager. So let's jump right in. To start off, we are gonna grab a piece of cardstock. This is size to A6, and I'm gonna grab my stamps. I wanna use 3 of the little emoji faces. And I'm gonna pick the laughing with tears and the little shy one with the little smiling one that's kind of like a little bit shy. And also the one with the sunglasses on there, because that's cute. Actually, I'm going to mount them to my acrylic stamp block in a vertical way, because I want to make a repeating pattern. And this doesn't have to be too precise. And what I'm going to do is just take my stamps and then just repeat the pattern all throughout the background of my cardstock. My cardstock, which will be my background. And I'm going to be using Versafine Ink, which is great when you pair it with watercoloring. It doesn't smudge or anything like that. So let's get to stamping. And I'm just going to start stamping. I'm going to start kind of right off the edge, just because I think when you're creating a repeating background pattern, when you're creating a pattern, it just helps to start off at the edge. It just looks more realistic. Like, yeah, I totally bought that piece of paper like this. I trimmed it up. Definitely makes it more interesting to have it that way. Here is my completed background, and I did accidentally do a little smudging here with my stamp, but that's okay because at the end I'm just going to, after I've watercolored it, I'm going to take my pen and outline each face with a circle. So it's just going to add a little extra handmade detail, a little character to it. So let me clean up and we will move on to watercoloring. So to watercolor, I'm going to be using this palette by Creative Expressions, which I really love because it has the basic colors, and also my Waterbrush, which holds the water already in the barrel, so that's really helpful. And I'm going to start off with picking up some of this blue, kind of squeezing my brush just a little bit, squeezing the barrel. And then a little bit of water is going to come out, and I'm going to start coloring the background. And I just find that it's easier to, I don't know, for me it's easier to color the background first than to color the little emoji faces. I don't know why, it just seems easier. Okay, so I am done with my watercoloring, and I'm going to grab my heat tool and dry my paper just a little bit. It's a little bit wet in some areas, so I just want to make sure it's all dry before I move on. I'm going to set this aside to dry, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment on a piece of white card. So I'm going to be using Happy Birthday. I'm going to use the same ink, so Versafine Ink in Onyx Black, to stamp Happy Birthday on a piece of cardstock, and then I'm going to trim this down to size so that it fits my card base, which is slightly bigger than A6. I want to leave a nice little border around it, so it's a little bit bigger than the A6 size. Now that I have my stamped sentiment, I'm going to trim it just about here so that I can kind of see how much I need to trim off of the sides, but for the most part, I want it to be about a 1/2 inch, maybe a 3/4 of an inch. So let's trim that up. My card is dry, it's dry to the touch, and I have my stamp sentiment, and I wanted to add just a little bit of sparkle to the background of my card. Don't shy away from using just a little bit of sparkle when you're making masculine cards. It's completely okay. So I'm going to be using the Spectrum Noir sparkle pens, and these are glitter brush pens, and what I'm going to do is just go over the blue area just slightly, just give it a little bit of a shimmer. If you look close, it did leave my pen tip a little bit slightly blue, and it does stain it just a smidge, but it's not a big deal because when you use it on plain card, so white card, it will still work clear. It still colors clear, so we're safe there. Now I'm gonna mount everything to my card base with some adhesive. So I'm gonna be using Creative Expressions Cosmic Acrylic Glue. I love this stuff. It dries clear and it dries quickly. Great adhesive to have. Before I add my sentiment, I wanted to outline every little emoji face with some black pen, just to give it a little bit more of a artsy kind of factor. So I'm just gonna draw circles just across, doesn't have to be really precise, just around, not across, around the faces of my emojis. I also made the same card, but instead of watercolor, I used alcohol markers and also created an alcohol marker background. So again, if you are not comfortable with watercolors, you can also use alcohol markers to color your little faces and your background. It all works out. I'm gonna mount my sentiment with some foam tape. But first, I kind of want to eyeball this, where I'm going to cut it, where it's gonna go. So let me trim it right about there and right about there. Just kind of eyeballing it. Do you guys do a lot of eyeballing? Let me know in the comments below. I do love to hear from you. Like when it comes to like making your cards or cutting things or trimming things or measuring things, do you just kind of eyeball it, or do you actually, are you very precise and you use your ruler, which is great too, but I tend to eyeball a lot of things. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, guys, but you know what? It's still really fun to craft, no matter which way you craft. No matter your style, it's a lot of fun. To wrap up this project, no pun intended, I'm going to be wrapping some of this twine on the side of my card and creating a bow just right above the happy birthday sentiment. Twine is great for masculine makes. I feel like it's a really universal, unisex kind of element that you can add to your card designs, so you can't fail with twine, guys. My card is done, but I wanted to go back and add some little blushed cheeks to some of my emoji faces. I'm gonna take a little bit of red, maybe a little bit of this pink peachy kind of color, kind of mix it together, and I'm just gonna go over just some of the faces with a little blush. So there are my blush cheeks, nothing too extravagant, nothing too over the top, just a little subtle blushing. And I am done with my card. Now to make this embossed card, I'm gonna start off with a piece of craft cardstock, and this is cut to 4 by 6 inches. And what I'm gonna do is just emboss in copper a pattern across the background, what will be my background with some of these emoji stamps. So I'm gonna grab 3. I'm gonna grab the smiley one, the one with the tongue sticking out just because it's playful, and also the one with the angel halo. And I'm just gonna arrange these in a row next to each other, and then I'm going to stamp a pattern across my background. And I'm going to be using, for my embossing ink pad, I'm going to use the Ranger Letter It, which I really love. I feel like it's one of the juiciest embossing ink pads, and it's worked really well for me, so I'm really happy with it. My embossed background is done, so what I'm going to do now is grab some distress inks and just ink the edges of this with 2 colors. So I'm going to be using the Rusty Hinge for just a lighter kind of brown, and then at the very edge I'm going to use Gathered Twigs. Next, I'm going to do my sentiment. So I'm going to heat emboss Happy Birthday onto this piece of card here. And I'm going to be using the Ranger embossing powder in copper tinsel. And these are very glittery, but it's a copper glitter. And so I think that you can get away with a little bit of glitter and copper, coppered glitter when you are creating some masculine cards. It's definitely okay to add a little sparkle. Before I put my card together, I wanted to do a little bit of inking on my card base and also my sentiment. So I wanted to ink the edges and also do a little bit of a line with a black pen just to give it a little bit more character, add some detail, nice detail to my card. Now that I've inked and lined my card base and also my sentiment, it's time to add a little bit of twine and to also assemble the card. So what I'm doing is just taking a piece of twine and tying a bow around the embossed card front. And then I'm going to mount my sentiment with some foam tape adhesive, and then on that note, I don't know what I was about to say then. Sorry. And then once I'm done there, I'm going to glue everything to my gray card base and I will be done. And that wraps it up for me. This is my embossed emoji masculine card. It's got a little sparkle, but it's okay. It's still very perfect for a special man in your life. I know that masculine makes are a little bit difficult. There's sometimes a challenge to find ideas and inspiration for them, but don't shy away from color or a little bit of glitter, a little embossing. It all works out really well. And I know that the special men in your life will really enjoy anything that is handmade and made for them. You know, you put that thought into it and you took the time to make them something nice. And I know that they're going to appreciate that. Well, that's it for me. For more inspiration and how-tos, head to the CraftStash website, which is craftstash.co.uk, where you'll find more ideas and inspiration and also all the products that I used today. Have a great day. Bye.